The public conversation around Joel Osteen and Lakewood Church has, over time, expanded far beyond weekly sermons or inspirational messages. In various online narratives and commentary videos, a wide range of claims, controversies, and high-profile incidents are frequently grouped together to create a sweeping story about wealth, religion, institutional power, and accountability. These discussions often blend verified events, reported figures, critical commentary, and speculation into a single dramatic narrative. At the center of it all is Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas, one of the largest megachurches in the United States, and its senior pastor, Joel Osteen. Supporters view him as a global religious leader who emphasizes positivity, hope, and encouragement. Critics, however, argue that his ministry reflects a broader trend in prosperity-focused preaching and raises questions about transparency, wealth accumulation, and institutional priorities. Over the years, several specific incidents have drawn public attention, including Hurricane Harvey in 2017, pandemic-era financial assistance, internal theft cases, and the tragic 2024 shooting at the church. These events, alongside ongoing theological debates and financial scrutiny, have fueled a continuing and often polarized public discussion about the role and responsibility of modern megachurches. From humble beginnings to megachurch expansion in Houston, Joel Osteen was born in Houston, Texas, and grew up in a family deeply involved in ministry through his father, John Osteen, who founded Lakewood Church. Initially, Joel Osteen did not serve as the primary public preacher. Instead, he worked behind the scenes in television production, helping manage the church's media outreach for many years. He did not receive formal theological training through seminary education, which is sometimes highlighted in public debate about his qualifications, though it is not unusual in certain evangelical traditions where leadership is often family-based or mentorship-driven. After his father's death in 1999, Joel Osteen assumed leadership of Lakewood Church, reportedly delivering his first sermon around that time. Under his leadership, the church experienced rapid expansion in attendance and media reach. Eventually, Lakewood moved into the former Compaq Center in Houston, a large arena that was renovated into a massive worship space capable of hosting tens of thousands of attendees. Osteen's rise coincided with the broader growth of televised ministry and motivational-style preaching, where sermons are often designed for mass broadcast audiences. His books, particularly inspirational self-help-styled Christian titles, became international bestsellers, significantly increasing his visibility beyond traditional church settings. This transformation turned Lakewood into a global media-driven ministry rather than a local congregation alone. The prosperity gospel debate and theological criticism. A major point of controversy surrounding Joel Osteen's ministry is its association, by critics, with the prosperity gospel. This theological perspective generally suggests that faith, positive confession, and generosity toward religious causes can lead to material blessing, success, and improved life circumstances. Supporters argue it encourages hope, generosity, and confidence in divine provision. However, critics from within and outside Christianity argue that this interpretation can oversimplify or misrepresent biblical teachings. Some theologians have publicly stated that prosperity-focused preaching risks shifting attention away from themes such as suffering, repentance, humility, and spiritual discipline. Institutions and religious commentators have also questioned whether this style of preaching aligns with traditional Christian doctrine or modern evangelical expectations. Osteen's sermons are often described as optimistic and motivational, focusing heavily on encouragement, self-improvement, and positive thinking. Critics sometimes argue that this emphasis can feel more like life coaching than traditional sermon structures. Supporters counter that such messaging provides accessible faith-based encouragement to large and diverse audiences. This theological disagreement forms the backdrop for many broader criticisms of megachurch culture, where emotional accessibility and media reach often intersect with doctrinal debates about depth, accountability, and interpretation. Wealth, media influence, and financial transparency questions. Joel Osteen's personal wealth and Lakewood Church's financial structure are frequently discussed in public debates. Osteen has stated in various interviews that he does not take a salary from Lakewood Church and that his income primarily comes from book sales, speaking engagements, and related media ventures. His books have reached bestseller status globally, contributing significantly to his financial profile. Lakewood Church itself is reported to generate substantial annual revenue through donations and tithes, reflecting its large attendance and international broadcast reach. Critics often highlight estimates suggesting that only a relatively small portion of church income is allocated to direct charitable initiatives, while supporters argue that operational costs, staffing, outreach programs, and facility maintenance also account for significant expenditures. Because many megachurches in the United States operate as tax-exempt religious organizations, they are not required to disclose detailed financial breakdowns publicly in the same way as publicly traded companies or registered charities. This lack of mandatory transparency has fueled ongoing debates about accountability and donor awareness. Supporters of Lakewood argue that congregants voluntarily give based on faith and trust in leadership, while critics contend that greater financial openness would strengthen public confidence and reduce skepticism surrounding large religious organizations. Hurricane Harvey and the debate over church response. One of the most widely discussed incidents involving Lakewood Church occurred during Hurricane Harvey in 2017, when severe flooding impacted Houston and surrounding areas. The disaster displaced thousands of residents and prompted widespread emergency response efforts from government agencies, nonprofits, and local religious organizations. Lakewood Church initially stated that its facility was inaccessible due to flooding. This announcement was later questioned by members of the public who shared images suggesting the building may have been usable earlier than reported. As criticism spread online, the church subsequently opened its doors to evacuees, providing shelter and support services. However, controversy arose when reports indicated that a donation offering was taken during services held with evacuees present. Supporters argue that this was a standard practice during church services and not specifically targeted at disaster victims, while critics viewed it as an inappropriate timing decision given the circumstances. Joel Osteen later defended the church's response in media appearances, stating that Lakewood had intended to assist as soon as conditions allowed. The incident became a defining moment in public discussions about megachurch responsibility during crises, and highlighted how quickly perception and trust can be influenced by social media narratives. Pandemic relief funds and public accountability discussions. During the COVID-19 pandemic, federal relief programs such as the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, were made available to support businesses and nonprofit organizations affected by economic disruption. Lakewood Church reportedly received millions in PPP loans, which later became a point of public discussion and scrutiny. Initial statements from the church suggested confusion or denial regarding participation in certain relief programs, but subsequent federal data indicated that funds had been received. The church later clarified that the money was used to support employee salaries and operational continuity during the pandemic period, and the loan was eventually repaid. Supporters of Lakewood argue that large organizations with significant staff and infrastructure were eligible under program guidelines and required financial support during widespread shutdowns. Critics, however, questioned whether large megachurches with substantial reserves should have accessed emergency funds intended for struggling small businesses. This debate reflects broader national discussions that occurred during the pandemic about fairness, eligibility, and the distribution of government financial aid, particularly when applied to large nonprofit institutions with significant revenue streams. Internal theft, allegations, and the quote, "cash in the walls" incident. Another widely circulated incident involved a reported theft at Lakewood Church in 2014, where law enforcement documented that a large sum of money and checks had been stolen from a church safe. The case initially went cold, and public updates were limited. Years later, during unrelated maintenance work in 2021, a plumber reportedly discovered envelopes containing cash and checks hidden inside a wall within the church building. These findings were turned over to authorities and were later linked by investigators to the earlier theft. The unusual nature of the discovery generated significant public attention and speculation, particularly because the stolen funds had remained hidden inside the building for years without being recovered. Officials and investigators confirmed certain connections between the recovered items and the original case, but not all questions were publicly resolved. While this incident was treated as a criminal matter rather than a theological or institutional controversy, it became part of the broader narrative surrounding Lakewood Church in online discussions about transparency, security, and internal oversight within large organizations. The 2024 church shooting and security concerns. In February 2024, a tragic shooting occurred at Lakewood Church during a Sunday service. A woman entered the building with firearms and opened fire inside the premises, resulting in chaos and a rapid security response. 2 armed off-duty officers present at the scene engaged the suspect, who was ultimately killed. During the incident, a child accompanying the shooter was critically injured, leading to widespread public concern and media coverage. The event raised immediate questions about security protocols at large public gathering spaces, particularly religious institutions that host thousands of attendees weekly. The shooting also intensified discussions about mental health systems, firearm access laws, and emergency preparedness in places of worship. Authorities confirmed that the individual involved had a documented history of mental health challenges, which further complicated public debate about prevention and intervention failures. Following the incident, Lakewood Church expressed grief and called for prayers for victims and families. Legal actions and investigations were reportedly initiated, focusing on security procedures and institutional responsibility during the event. Ongoing legal, cultural, and institutional scrutiny. In the aftermath of various controversies and incidents, Lakewood Church and Joel Osteen have continued to face ongoing public scrutiny from multiple directions. Some criticism focuses on theology, particularly disagreements over prosperity-centered preaching. Other concerns relate to financial transparency, organizational accountability, and governance structures within large religious institutions. Cultural shifts have also influenced how megachurches are perceived, especially among younger generations who often prioritize institutional transparency and social engagement. This has contributed to broader questions about the future role of traditional large-scale church models in modern society. At the same time, Lakewood remains a highly attended and globally broadcast ministry with substantial influence. Supporters argue that its message continues to provide hope and encouragement to millions worldwide, and that criticism often overlooks the positive impact of its outreach efforts. The coexistence of strong support and strong criticism reflects a larger societal tension between faith-based leadership, celebrity influence, and public accountability in the digital age. Media amplification, public perception, and the expansion of the narrative. A major factor in how the story of Joel Osteen and Lakewood Church has been shaped is the role of media amplification and online commentary, where individual events are often reframed, condensed, or combined into broader narratives that travel quickly across social platforms. In this environment, news coverage, opinion commentary, and viral storytelling frequently overlap, making it difficult for audiences to separate verified facts from interpretation or emotional framing. Incidents such as Hurricane Harvey, the pandemic-era loan reporting, internal theft cases, and the 2024 shooting have each been independently documented, but in online discourse they are often woven together into a single continuous storyline about institutional failure or controversy. Television interviews, newspaper reporting, and digital journalism each contribute different layers of context, while social media platforms tend to prioritize attention-grabbing summaries that emphasize conflict or scandal. As a result, public perception is often shaped less by complete records and more by fragmented highlights that circulate widely. This dynamic can intensify scrutiny on high-profile religious leaders like Joel Osteen, whose global visibility makes him a frequent subject of both support and criticism. At the same time, supporters of Lakewood Church argue that this same media environment can distort perception by focusing disproportionately on controversy while overlooking routine charitable work, community outreach, and personal testimonies of positive impact. Critics counter that public figures with large followings and significant financial influence should expect heightened scrutiny, especially when operating within tax-exempt religious structures. Ultimately, the media ecosystem plays a central role in expanding and sustaining the narrative surrounding Lakewood Church, ensuring that each new event is quickly absorbed into an ongoing public debate that continues to evolve rather than resolve. Closing reflection on an ongoing public narrative. The public story surrounding Joel Osteen and Lakewood Church is not defined by a single event, but by an accumulation of interpretations, incidents, and debates that continue to evolve over time. Some elements of the narrative are grounded in documented events, while others are shaped by commentary, opinion, and online amplification. For supporters, Lakewood represents a message of hope, resilience, and global outreach delivered through modern media. For critics, it represents broader concerns about wealth in religious leadership, transparency in nonprofit institutions, and the balance between inspiration and accountability. As with many large public figures and organizations, perceptions are often shaped as much by cultural context as by verified facts. The ongoing discussions surrounding Lakewood Church reflect deeper questions about trust, leadership, and the role of faith institutions in contemporary society. Whatever perspective one takes, the conversation continues, and the public interest surrounding Joel Osteen and his ministry shows no sign of fading anytime soon.